Make sure to hit the subscribe button because if you don't, I will hire a North Korean hacker to hack into every traffic light within a 20-mile radius of your house and give you a red light at every light whenever you drive your car. Anyway, here we go. What is a company secret you can spill now that you no longer work there? Story 1. I did development for a large sunglass company. The high-end luxury brands you pay in the hundreds of dollars for usually come from the same factories in China as the low-end goods sold at Target. The lenses are not necessarily better quality in many cases either. When you plunk down a lot of money for Armani, RL, Prada, and Versace, you are not necessarily getting top-of-the-line quality frames and lenses like you think. Story 2. I used to work at a pawn shop. Always clean the item before bringing it in and be ready to show it works. Have the broker quote a price before you do. They will always ask what you're looking for first to see if it's less than what they'd max offer. Negotiate after the broker quotes a price. They have no interest in your situation or financial struggles. Literally 80% of the people in there have the same issues, so stick to general talk. Our shop would typically pay 25% to 30% of new price found online or at retailers. Yes, internet is available for them to reference. They also have set prices to pay for common items, video game systems, TVs, accessories, etc. If you're not comfortable only receiving around 25% of new for your item, even in good condition, don't bother coming in to sell and go to FB Marketplace instead. Inventory is the pawn shop's biggest failure point. It doesn't make the shop any money with items sitting on the shelf. The broker doesn't have any skin in the game for items on the floor for sale, so use that to your advantage. Make an offer less than the sticker price. Likely they will consider it and either accept or counter. Again, too much inventory kills pawn shops and they get a lot of it every day. Lastly, the biggest secret. Always tell the broker you want to pawn your item instead of sell. Pawn shops would much rather give you a loan and you pay a large amount of interest and then have you pick up the item at the end. It removes the inventory aspect and doesn't waste labor or time trying to sell the item later on, if it ever does sell. Not picking up the item you pawn doesn't hurt your credit score and nobody really keeps track of whether or not you pick up your items. Conversely, you're much more likely to get a few extra dollars for something you pawn due to the broker thinking you may come to pick it up, and the more they loan out to you the more interest they will get. You'll get much more room to haggle on items you sell if you tell them that you wish to pawn your item and just never pick up. Story 3. Safety first only applies when it hurts their profit margins. I worked at an industrial site where they repeated this constantly. There was a large tool cabinet that was on unsteady ground that everyone was complaining about, as it would teeter every time someone opened or closed it. Company wouldn't do anything about it. One day it fell on someone and killed them. Suddenly the company was all, this was a preventable accident and we should all do better. Naturally shifting the blame everywhere but themselves. The death was never reported on in the news and we were encouraged not to talk about it out of respect for the family. Story 4. Not going to say what company it was cause I don't want to get sued. Let's just say they're pretty gassy and you find them a lot on the beach. Phase Technologies, they produce 3-phase machines and motor starters. If you work in the plumbing, oil, heavy equipment, like lathes, etc., or most certainly in the farming industries, you may have heard of them. They primarily focus their sales in the farming industries, to work on pivots and pumps, but did you know? Anytime they release a new product, they have most certainly not tested it enough in real-world conditions. Basically, knowing that the product, that can cost thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, will malfunction, break, or catastrophically fail in less than a week from delivery. Furthermore, you want to buy a warranty, at a premium price of $600 or more? Guess what? You won't get any repair parts sent out to you, plus we don't have any service members that can come out to you to fix your 100,000 piece of equipment you just broke. Nope, you have to pay to send it to us, that is, on your dime, and if we deem the issue to have been caused by you, through whatever arbitrary nonsense we just make up, guess what, your warranty is invalid, and you now have to pay to get it shipped back to you. Oh wait, there is more. Did you buy one of the motor drivers for your garage door or something? Well, you see. They advertise that the 3 amp or 5 amp model can drive your door, but really, you'll need a 30 amp driver, even though your machine is rated for far less. So don't trust what they have on their site. Whether it be warranty, details, or even price. Seriously, This was the scummiest company I've ever had the pleasure to work for, and I am glad I no longer work for them. Story 5. I worked as a private security for people who make millions per year. Among them were church pastors, preachers, and other so-called religious men, and these religious men like the drugs and the youngest girls. Despite having so much to lose, they are stingy when it comes time to pay. There are movie stars, music makers, and other super rich people who live in regular houses, drive shitty cars and live in your communities as the person next door. The creepy house on your block that has the weirdo stranger watching you from behind drawn blinds and only goes out at night. It is because whoever lived there does not want to be recognized. 90% of my guard duty for these people was to dress like a bum and deal with services providers like phone men, internet and cable, landscapers, make sure the house was stocked with food and drink, and to accept packages. One of our clients had an 800 square foot hidey hole that looked like a rundown trailer house on the outside where she would watch movies, eat pizza and talk with the assigned guard all night long. We had another trio of musicians who had a 3-bedroom townhouse, and they would crash there to write songs and the guard was the one ordering the food, and running fetch errands. Story 6. When I worked at electronics boutique, we never tested anything that was traded in. We would have a visual check of the conditions of discs, give consoles a good clean, then just resell everything and let the customers test it for us. If it came back faulty, they just got an immediate refund or exchange, and that was the point they were tested at. I think the time saved was more worthwhile to the company than the odd bit of lost money on a trade. We traded so much there would have been one member of staff full-time testing stuff, far cheaper to just been the odd mistake. Story 7. Chewy has great customer service because they know that's what makes money. They do not give a shit about the human experience. I worked in an office without a bathroom. I was also forced to arrive to work early and stay late to power up/down my computer off the clock. Which, yes, is illegal, and yes, they were sued over it. I could go on. The fact that they preach the customer service practices that they do almost makes it worse, because it's obvious that they know how to treat people with dignity and respect. They just don't believe their employees deserve it. Story 8. When I worked at Goodwill, we had a morning meeting daily. That meeting was basically all about sales. Non-profit my ass. I think it's cool the way they give jobs to disabled people, but after that they suck. Also, anything valuable you donated didn't see the sales floor. It went to online sales. Story 9. I worked in casinos. Everyone knows that the slots are tricked for you to lose your money, but you can't imagine how heavily it is tricked for you to lose. We had a showroom in the office with slots and we only needed to press one button to put more money in it. We were never able to win any good amount. We even tricked the machine and played for whole 2 days in a row without any substantial gains. I was working for the biggest and best slot machines company in the world. That's why they are the best. You can't win anything with slots. Story 10. This will get lost, but I worked for a gaming wholesaler during the Magic the Gathering days. They were making a mint already, but the owner went even further. He took a chunk of the boxes they received, and these were already pre-ordered by the stores he sold to claim they'd been shorted, and then resold them at retail under a different name to the stores. Say you ordered 100 boxes of cards. You'd get told, oops, we got less than we hoped, here's 80 boxes. If there was an actual shortage, he'd still pull it, so you'd get 60. You're paying wholesale, say $40 per box. You complain to your rep, who then says, well, I know a store that has them for sale, only that store is a chick in the next office with a different phone line, pretending to be a different company. There, you get charged a massive markup, so retail the box would be 100, with a wholesale distributor, you were supposed to pay 40. Dude shorted your order, then sold you the boxes he withheld at a massive markup, to the point where you were paying 400 a box and thanking the faux company for helping. Scumbag. Story 11. The goal of every Best Buy employee, as with most retail now, is to get you to sign up for a credit card or paid membership. If you already have them, then you're essentially a waste of their time. Every product they show you is because it has a promotion that goes with one of the 2 sign-ups they need. Interest-free financing and member deals being the main hooks. There are more things to push depending on the department too. For example, if a laptop is being sold, the employee is expected to get them to sign up for Microsoft 365 on top of a credit card and paid membership. If you already know what you want, the best way to shop there is to order it online for in-store pickup. There is basically no opportunity to sell you on anything else since the sales transaction is already over. Story 12. Used to work for Rolex. We did have very low stock, only like 50 watches a month. If someone wanted something, you had to present the case to the manager with a massive story why they deserved the item. But mostly they went to the boss's friends or people willing to give you gifts under the table. All of the super rare watches were sold to friends of the business who would often buy the owner elaborate gifts. You'd be encouraged to get people to buy ladies' watches or undesirable pieces to show they were serious enough to buy a sub or whatever. Story 13. Worked in the office of a cleaning company. Tiny company, so I had a hand in most things. Pretty questionable / lacks immigration status validations. And wage theft. Probably felt more comfortable doing it since both sides knew a lot of the workers weren't there legally. And the ones that were legal either didn't know what the time clock system was doing was illegal or didn't have money for lawyers anyway. Owner of the company fired 2 HR/payroll VPs who tried to get compliant on this stuff. They started hinting that they'd like me to start helping out with some HR and payroll stuff, and that's when I polished up the resume. I would have been an idiot to sign my name to those forms. This was a long time ago. Probably 10 years. No clue if any if this got fixed. Story 14. Patagonia is a major defense contractor but intentionally keeps a low profile and actively works to restrict the amount of publicly accessible information that is out there about their dealings with various nations' militaries. They often even conceal this info from their own employees. Every major outdoor apparel and equipment company is a defense contractor, it's just that some do a better job of concealing it than others. The entire outdoor rec industry is subsidized by the military-industrial complex. To the point where they're basically one and same. Many of the bigger defense-oriented brands will have the same parent companies. Since it's got more attention than I anticipated, Patagonia's current status as a defense contractor post-2022 reshuffle is a lot more nuanced. The department in charge of their defense-focused lines was officially spun off into an independent company in 2022. But they're still heavily linked to Patagonia. How closely they are associated with current Patagonia is a matter of debate. Since most of that info is not public nor widely discussed openly. The units buying this equipment don't care and aren't asking, they just want high-performance uniforms. And Patagonia still does business with governments and militaries, just not with a dedicated product line. They make high-performance technical gear, and there are some units and agencies who need it to best do their jobs. It's rarer now since it's a few years old, but you'll also still find branded Patagonia stuff from the defense line pre-spin-off, floating around in official distribution networks. There's also a large secondary market for Patagonia-branded multicom garments. A lot of people find it really funny to wear Patagonia-branded level 9 pants and will pay good money for them. Even if they have legitimate access to the current generation of garments under the new brand name. Story 15. Old people's care homes. Some are good, some are bad, and in most the patients are totally dependent on overworked people who may or may not do their best. Witnessed as attempt at an old woman, who was simulating, so I had to fight with the night nurse to get her at least aspirin for the pain she complained of, was dead when I showed up weeks later, of undiagnosed stomach cancer. This could happen because there had been no doctor there for 3 months cause reasons. Please visit your relatives in care homes, people, or become one of the angels visiting people who have no one ever coming by. Thank you guys so much for sticking to the end. This is a pretty new thing to me, so if you guys have any advice on things like gameplay or captions, please leave them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider turning on notifications so you get notified every time I post, or just check in every few days to see if there's anything new. I would appreciate it more than you guys could imagine. Otherwise I'm done, so peace out.